What is going on, young world out there? This is your boy, Clutch EXC, coming to you straight from Toronto, Ontario, to give you the latest news and content. So today, I'm just going to quickly be going over the two newest units that are on banner for this week. They dropped this last Thursday. That was on the 9th. This is going to be kind of just a quick overlook of Ardyn and Regis. And I'm just going to tell you basically why you should and why you shouldn't pull that for them. So right off the rip, if you are, let's say, pretty deep into the game, if you have a damage dealer, then you should not be pulling for Ardyn. Ardyn, his TMR is a 40 attack hat with 20% dark resistance. It has an ability, Composed Chancellor, gives you auto heal, 1800 HP, 10% MP, increased limit gauge. Definitely, I'm always in favor of these TMRs that don't just, give you more attack. They give you other stuff. I've never been like a straight this guy, so I like his TMR. I just don't think it's worth chasing. Now, his STMR is HP 20%. Attack 60%, and then all status ailment resist. Status ailment resist was cool a couple years ago when Rena dropped and her 7-star came out, and that had status ailment resist. I really wanted to get that one. That was big on my list, and now that has dropped. So if that has dropped, I feel like this has dropped, which is kind of disappointing, I guess. But I don't really think that's too bad, to be honest. If you were to get this TMR or STMR, just, naturally pulling, you can't help RNG. So if you just aren't, this STMR falls into your lap, definitely no complaints there, but definitely not worth the chase. In terms of weapons, you can use daggers, swords, great swords, katanas, rods, staff, spears, throwing weapons, and guns, which is a huge arsenal of weapons. And then he's able to equip basically everything except for heavy armor and helmet. So it's a pretty decent. He also can equip the great shield, so he has light shield zone. Pretty decent stuff there. In terms of just moves and attacks, I don't really want to go through it all. His chaining, he can do like I think one tornado chain, and then the rest of it is Stardust Ray chaining. That's correct, yeah. And then he has like a bunch of moves that have stacking multipliers. And then the highest you can get that multiplier on the move is this move here, Warp Strike Pain. You can get up to like 45 times multiplier, which is really good, really decent, good. I wasn't gonna say decent damage, but good damage. He also has in his kit, he's able to give like breaks. So he has the ability to do like 74% attack defense breaks and then 74% magic spirit breaks. I prefer the attack magic breaks together on when they're in like parts like this, instead of attack defense and then magic spirit. I'd prefer attack magic defense spirit, just so you can get basically lock them out. If you're trying to get like attack magic, for example, from the opponent, you basically lock them out of the damage. If you only do attack defense, if they do physical attacks and magic attacks, then the magic still needs to be broken so that they don't kill you. So yeah, that's why I prefer it that way. In terms of his cooldown abilities, he has some good buffing ones. This one takes a bunch of damage to himself, but then he does 250% to the whole team, and then he increases the resistances. That's not really, the resistances is like kind of late, one turn only, so it's cool for free, but the 250 is really what you want to use this for. It's a really good buff. Flames of Rage gives you 150 instead, and then decreases fire resistance and dark resistance. And then this one, Mastering Darkness, increases fire and dark resistance. And then this one and gives you 2 more abilities. These abilities are breaks that also give you buffs that you see down here. They give you 200% buffs just for the caster. This one isn't as good, Rising Phantom Magic, but this Rising Phantom, I think as a damage dealer though, you won't really be using him for his debuffs. So he's kind of like all over the place in that aspect. In terms of his abilities, he has like regular, I think 220 attack, and then he has 150 true dual wield. But the one thing that's really holding him back is he doesn't have access to triple cast in his kit at all. So while he's stacking his multipliers, he can only stack them 2 at a time, as opposed to other characters that stack them 3 at a time, and he has to get like 8 total. So it's kind of thing there. And then lastly, his LB, Royal Retribution, physical damage. It's basically 36 times mod with 100 fire and dark resistance. So yeah, Ardyn, I wouldn't, like, unless you're a big Final Fantasy 15 fan and you're gonna use him, I wouldn't recommend going for him. He just doesn't have, when you compare him to other damage dealers, he just doesn't have the sauce or the juice at all. He's kind of just boring, and he does dual wield, and he only does dual cast. So just kind of boring in general. I would not recommend going for him. Now, this is kind of a shame because he's attached to Regis, and I think Regis is a super interesting character. Now, interesting in the aspect that even if you have characters who are like him, I think that Regis has just a certain niche in his market of supports that he still would be interesting and fun to use, as opposed to somebody who's like, I have Sylvie, I have Ignis, and those are really fun characters. But if I got Regis, I think I would still be able to use him effectively. I also have Luna Freya, and I just haven't been able to use her as effectively as like characters like Ignis or Sylvie. I like them better. But I think if I had Regis, I'd use him a lot. Now, I want to talk about some things I like about Lucius. His TMR, King Lucius' character, increase HP 20%, attack 40%, autocast King Lucius' character to start a battle. Go right. Yeah. Pretty sure it just gives you like 100% buff at the beginning of battle. Sword of the Father here. There's another support weapon. You always see these support STMRs. They give MP, low attack, and then they give like some type of support ability. High Tide, not bad. But I guess it really, at the end of the day, you'd really just want to connect the TMR to Regis. And just like with Ardyn, I would definitely not recommend chasing any. My actual recommendation, banner, to try and get one Regis and stop there, because getting an Ardyn is a fail. If you get one Ardyn, you should stop there too. In terms of equipment, he's able to equip daggers, swords, great swords, katanas, spears, throwing weapons, and guns. So unlike Regis, who had access to wands or rods and staffs, he doesn't have access to those things. I think that's kind of lame. If he did have access to staves, that could be really fun. Like have different things. But I still think that they removed that access. It's already so strong. Now, in terms of things that he can do, he can mitigate magic damage, mitigate physical damage only by 20%. As an comparison, Sylvie can do it by 25%. So Sylvie's already better in that aspect. But at the same time, Sylvie cannot, Sylvie also has stop resistance, and so does he. He has very easy access to stop resistance through his mitigate physical damage taken, resist fear physical. He also has access to defense and attack breaks, so he can increase resistance that way. That is really, really strong for this character too. He can mitigate damage, so that's different from just mitigating physical or magic damage. He can mitigate all damage by 30%. He also has access to damage mitigation by 40% for 1 turn, 30% for 3 turns, and then he has access to 50% on his LB for 3 turns. So overall, he can mitigate. He has lots and lots of ways to either mitigate damage for a longer amount of time or mitigate damage quickly. And unlike Ignis or unlike Sylvie, Sylvie can only mitigate physical and magic damage, but Ignis can mitigate regular, just any kind of damage, and that's only on turn 2. Regis can mitigate up to 40% regular damage on turn 1, so that's pretty good for him. He has access to chaining families, So he has access to Stardust Ray if you want to chain with any character, like you want to chain with maybe Wave Light, or you want to chain with, maybe Paladin Cecil or another Stardust Ray trainer. Maybe you want to chain with your King Rain. But he has access to doing chains through that, and he also has access to give out aerial ray chains through his ability Bonds of Battle, which is pretty good. That he can just dual cast anytime, give all of his allies for 5 turns a move that aerial ray chains, and it's also light. So then it's not only is it just a chain move, it's an elemental chain. So you can get elemental chain cap. That's really strong. You just have to make sure the enemy's not weak to light. That's basically it. He also has triple cast. Now this is the one thing that I don't like about his kit. So he activates triple cast for himself on his first turn, and then after that he never gets access to triple cast ever again. So that's kind of like kind of annoying for me, but it's okay. At least you get triple cast one time on the first turn. You can pop off all your spells, and you can work on just keeping everything active after that. Last thing in this kit I want to talk about, he can give out killers. Demon, human, undead killers are really strong. Actually, fairies killers are strong too. Just giving out the ability to give out killers free and so often, like for 4 turns, a 6-turn cooldown is pretty ridiculous. I do damage. I use a lot of burst characters, jumpers, dragons. So I think that that's really good. I take my time, so I think that that's really good for anybody who uses like characters who require setups, because you'll always be able to like activate it at least before you do the damage. So I think that that's pretty strong there. In terms of his LB, this LB, I would actually recommend you not maxing it, just because it'd be a waste of your crystals, because the main reason you'd use this is to get the barrier and then the mitigation. Those are both accessible at level 1. You get at 7 stars level 1, you get the max barrier and you get the max mitigation. The only thing that levels up at level 30 is his damage, and you're not going to really reuse Regis' damage just for chaining and supportability. So yeah, in terms of comparing him to other characters, if you have Sylvie or Ignis, I wouldn't say he's super necessary. If you have Ignis, he's probably more necessary than not. But if you have Sylvie or Ignis, you're mostly good. You don't have to worry about getting to pulling Regis as soon as possible. This is definitely like a skippable banner. But if you're looking for something that's going to be good into the near future, Regis is definitely probably like top 3 strongest supports in the game right. I didn't even get to go over this, but he has ways of increasing LB gauge to your team really easily, and then giving them HP and MP too. He has a lot of ways to give out MP. Yeah, he's just a really strong character. He has barriers, and mitigation, MP refresh, healing. I think that's really about it, but there's nothing really you're going to need him to do it. He can resist stop. He has a resist cure innately in his kit. There's nothing really you're going to need him more to do. He kind of does all the things you're going to want out of a character like him. And then other characters like Ignis have like elemental resist. That's probably like the way that he's lacking, but from what I hear, you're not going to get it. So yeah, if you want to pull, definitely pull for it. So yeah, and that's really it about it. I definitely that is a really good character that a lot of people are kind of sleeping on his banner, but I would not recommend. Like, I did 3 pulls myself, and I didn't get any rainbows, but I'm really scared of getting Ardyn. I might do 1 more pull and that's it. So I recommend, like, don't do more than 5 ticket pulls, no lapis. Thank you for watching my video. Take care. Have